today's presentation. It's on the parameter manager in ARUtils. So let's just have a quick look at what the parameter manager can do for you. So the typical functionality of the parameter manager is to show parameter usage. It's very easy in a project to not have a good idea of how parameters have been used. So the parameter manager will show you how parameters have been assigned to the project, so perhaps to a doors category or a walls category, what global parameters there are, and also where shared parameters have been used in families. So it gives you a good overview of how parameters have been used. It'll also show hidden parameters, so the things that you can't normally see through the user interface. It'll also list the GUIDs, those unique identifiers for shared parameters. This can sometimes be useful if the same GUID has been used for different named parameters, or more commonly where two parameters have the same name but are in fact different GUIDs, perhaps parameters coming from different locations. So it'll also let you quickly export all the shared parameters out to a file. So if you receive a project from another consultant, you can export out all of those shared parameters to a file that you can then use for embedding those shared parameters. And in a simpler vein, it'll export parameters to Excel. So that's showing you how parameters have been used, but obviously we want to also manipulate those parameters to rationalize how they've been used. And so with Parameter Manager, you can easily delete parameters from your project. You can delete parameters from your families. You can also take a parameter which has been associated to a category in your project and actually embed those parameters into families. And it will take those values that have been set in the project and embed them into the family types. So it'll also let you copy shared parameters between families. So if you find that there's a parameter in one door family that you would like in all your other families, in all your other door families, you can easily copy those shared parameters between the families. When you're doing any of these embedding operations, you do have the opportunity to assign a value to those newly embedded parameters. Now, this is not full parameter value management. It simply allows you to say, all right, let's start off with a value of Fred for the person that modeled all of these items. You'll still need to go through and use other utilities to change all of those values to the correct ones for each family type. And you also have the option of changing family parameters to be type or instance. Note, it's only for family parameters. You don't have that option with parameters within your project. Now, the last thing to say is to repeat that the parameter is not to be used for managing parameter values. If you want to do that, use either ARUtils head of the family or use the import export anything routine that lets you easily set values for multiple types and instances. So let's now move on to looking at actually using the software. So let's start the parameter manager, and our dialog comes up and we've got a number of options that are available to us. The main functions are to scan items, so scanning for project parameters or family shared parameters. We have some export options that enable us to export out our parameters once we've found them, and then we have more of the operational functions that we're able to use. So we can say delete, delete in all, or we have the option of embedding parameters. And that allows us to take parameters that exist basically within the project and embed them in families, or to take family parameters and transfer them across to other families. So let's have a quick scan of our project, and at this point we'll say only look for project parameters. So hit scan project, and we then very quickly get up a list of all of the parameters that are in our project. As yet we haven't scanned for parameters within families. So down in our parameter table we've now got information about our parameters. We've got the name of parameters, where they've been found. If they're a shared parameter, it shows us the GUID for the item, shows us if it's a type of or an instance parameters. So those not ticked, they're instance. Are the parameters visible? So we can see here that we've got a couple of parameters that aren't in fact visible to the user. These are normally quite difficult to delete if you don't have some third-party add-on. We can find out what type of parameter they are, so yes, no, text, length, and we can also see what category or family the particular parameters have been associated to. So we've got some parameters that are associated to rooms, others to doors, windows. So we very quickly get an overview of what parameters are in our project and how they're being used. This is a great step forward from simply going through the Revit user interface and trying to work out where parameters have been used. So let's say we want to delete some parameters from our project. So in this case perhaps we want to delete all of the wall finish parameters. So could change that to just wall, and so we'll select our parameters. Now these have all been assigned to the rooms category, so if you picked a room you would find that those parameters are available to you. Let's just do that quickly. I'll just enable rooms, and you'll see that when I click that we've got all these wall finish parameters. We have some other ones, but in this case we just want the finish ones. So we'll go to our parameter manager, select those wall finish parameters, and we will then simply hit delete. All those parameters have now been deleted, and if we select our rooms once again, you'll see that those parameters are no longer available to us. So let's just move on to the next section. So deleting parameters from the project using Parameter Manager is probably not really much faster than just using the Revit user interface. You wouldn't have known as easily what categories the parameters had been used in, but you could have gone through and just deleted them quite quickly. Now, where it becomes more useful is if we want to delete parameters that are common to families. So let's say we just want to look at all the parameters that relate to furniture families in our project. So we'll just clear the table. Makes it a bit easier, just less confusing. So we can say scan a category. So we'll pick a family instance and scan all families of that category for shared parameters. So scan category, pick a family, and you'll see now that our families have been scanned, and we've got a number of furniture families, and it actually shows us some of the values. Now, it's worth keeping in mind that this is just a value from one type within that family. So it's not really meant as a total tool for managing parameter values. So keep that in mind. We've got warranty in a number of families, and you'll see here a bit of an anomaly. In one family, the table dining round with chairs family, the warranty has been set as a type parameter. And in fact, it makes far more sense that the warranty is basically always based on types rather than instances. So what we can do now is actually say, let's update all of the families of the furniture type to use the warranty item and change it to type. We won't update the values in the families, although we'll probably need to go in and edit those anyway. So we can now say what families we want affected in this way. So we could say of category select families. So if we hit this, we'll get a list of all of the families that are available to us, and we won't actually pick the one that it's already in, and we'll just say select those. So we are now merging parameters from the dining table family into all of the other families. Alright, and we get some feedback about that process, and you can see that it's done some things and it's changed parameter to type in the instances where required. So if we now go back out, you'll see that it's set to type, and if we go to one of those families, perhaps a desk, edit the type, you'll see that we've got the warranty parameter and it's set to 2 years. So here we've transferred parameters between families. We would possibly need to still go through and change the value of all of these for specific types within a family. Perhaps a student desk only has a 1-year warranty. Once again, you might use import export anything to actually update all those values. Now, having merged all of those parameters into families, you'll notice now that we can actually pick that parameter, and previously when we were deleting a project parameter, the delete in all was not available to us. Using the delete in all, we can actually say delete warranty, and it will delete that parameter from all the families that match the category of the one we've chosen. Alternatively, we could just pick all of these items and say delete, and it will then delete that parameter for each of those instances. Now, one of the things that Parameter Manager will do is actually embed project parameters into the families. So say for example we've created a durability parameter and associated it to the doors category. So we've actually gone through and edited the values of those items. So if I pick a door and look at the type, we'll see that we have a durability of very tough for this particular type, and another type of door we've got a durability of tough. So we've actually gone through over a period of time and set all of these values, and we've now decided that we want that parameter to actually exist in those door families so that we can take those doors and use them in other projects. Now, if we wanted to transfer all of these manually, it would take us a great deal of time and we'd make a great many errors. But the parameter manager will let us very quickly and easily embed this parameter into those families. Just to show you, if I edit that family, that durability parameter does not exist within it. So at the end of this process it will. So we'll just go out of that and we'll start up our parameter manager. Okay, so the durability parameter is associated to all doors families. So the most typical thing that we would do is say embed the parameters of all families that are of the doors category. Now, if we ticked update values, it would actually update using the value in this column. You'll see that when I tick that, it shows that it's going to be using the value in that column. Now, we don't actually want to do that. We simply want it to embed this parameter using the parameter values already defined in the project. So we'll just say of category all families, and that will go through and embed that parameter in all of our doors families and set the values for all the types. So when I go into that family, it will now show that parameter. Now we get a warning message saying delete the parameter durability from the project. So that will delete it from the category association within the project. It won't actually delete it from within those families. So we'll say yes. Alright, we get some messages about what it's done, and you can see here that we've got a few values set to normal, very tough, tough. There were a lot of other doors that didn't have those values set. So we go OK. That's now completed, and if we go into this family, edit the family, look at the types, you'll see that we've got our durability parameter, and as we go through different items, you'll see that the value's set as it was within that project. So all good. And if I go back into the project and go into manage project parameters, you'll see that durability is no longer in the list of parameters associated to the project. Now the question arises, so say none of my families have actually got the parameter that I want to be assigned to a number of families. The simple process then is to, using Revit, use the add a project parameter, and you can add and associate a parameter here. So we'll say add, and we'd pick shared parameter, we'd select something from our list, test val insert, and we would pick whatever family categories we want that parameter associated to. So once we've done that, set it to type or instance, which group it should be grouped under. We can then simply use the parameter manager to embed that parameter to all the families in our project. So just as a matter of completeness, if we wanted to set values for those door parameters, we could actually use the import export anything routine. So we will simply say what category we want to use, and in this one we'll just say remove all. We'll say we want to do the doors category. For types, we want to pick the parameters that we want to use in our export. So we'll just simply say export. We've got the family, name, description, type mark. Here's our durability. We'll just double click that, move it down to the bottom, say OK. And if we now edit that exported data, you'll see that we've got our columns showing the family and the type name, the description, type mark, and we don't really need any of these columns apart from being able to make sensible assignments. So we'll just do a repeated type of item here. So we'll set all of the types to those values. We could make them all the same. Now that we've done that, we don't actually need these columns. We don't really even need these columns either. Because we're using the unique ID in this case, we can save it off just like this, but we'll say save. Close that out, and if we now go import, you'll see we get a report saying that it's set various values to the ones we've just defined. We exit out of this, and now when we pick any of our types, you'll see that we have associated values. So very easy to use the import export anything routine to set our values. We don't do that through Parameter Manager. So hopefully you've learned something about the Parameter Manager in ARUtils and how it may help you in your daily workflows. Thank you very much.